my name is Vilma Santana Eugi, and I'm from Comodoro Rivadavia. And let me tell you my story. So hang in there. It's kind of long. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always been attracted to the English language. I've always enjoyed watching movies and listening to music and watching cartoons. And when I was listening to music, I like to transcribe the lyrics and then verify if I got them right or wrong based on the, that little brochure that came into the CD. Okay, so I would double check and make sure I got it right. And I've always enjoyed teaching English to my sisters and then my best friend. She always needed tutoring lessons for school, so I always helped her out. And when I graduated from high school, I was 17 years old, and I decided to pursue my teaching degree. So I went to Profesorado de Inglés at Instituto Superior de Formación Docente 1806. I started in 2003. And it was a very rewarding experience. My professors were amazing, and they always expected the best of me. I was a pretty good student. Of course, I always struggled with phonetics. That's a hard one, and I always tried to make the best of it and try to imitate the sounds to the best of my ability. And then another class that I enjoyed was Práctica Docente. I obviously had to student teach. It's part of my education, and that's when I fell in love with it, and I realized that working with kids and adolescents and adults was my thing. I got to learn a lot from my professors, and then linguistics. That was probably one of my hardest ones, and for some reason I just didn't get it. And I took the final exam and didn't pass. And I was like, all right, I'm going to start and I'm going to study harder and get it, right? And I kept studying for my finals, and I was about to graduate, and I still didn't pass. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I can't believe I'm about to graduate and I still can't get it. So third one is the charmer, I guess. It's the winner. And I finally graduated. That was in 2007. I was, 21 years old, and I wanted to continue with my education. So I went to Buenos Aires, and I studied my licenciatura en enseñanza del idioma inglés at Universidad KS. And when I was at Universidad KS, one of my professors sent out an email to the whole class about scholarship opportunities. One of them was for the British Council, and the other one was for Fulbright in the US. I applied for the British Council because I really wanted to go to the UK. I was obsessed with the Scottish accent, and I always thought it was fun when I was studying phonetics, and I always tried to imitate the accent, and I didn't get accepted. And I remember that when I went to the Ministerio de Educación in Buenos Aires to turn in my British Council application, they mentioned the Fulbright scholarship. And I was like, yeah, but I started it, but it's so long, and it's in English and Spanish. And they're like, we'll give you an extension. Why don't you turn it in by Monday at 4:00? And I was like, all right, sure. And of course, at the very last minute, it was 3:45, and I show up on a Monday to the Ministry of Education, and I turned it in, and I was competing with 500 other teachers of English across Argentina, and there were only 15 of us selected. I was the only one from Patagonia. I just couldn't believe it, and that's how my life changed completely. I got accepted, and I ended up in Indiana, and I was teaching Spanish at university level. And I was kind of concerned because all my life I tried to teach English and to perfect my English and then to end up working for my native tongue. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed it a lot. And that's when I realized, like, okay, this was a really cool, different experience. And it was fun. I was 23 years old. And I learned about an opportunity at West Virginia. And I contacted the chair of the Foreign Languages Department, who happened to be a Cordobés. And I said, like, hey, I enjoyed this opportunity in Indiana where I taught Spanish at university level, and I heard that I could do the same at West Virginia University. And he said, would you be interested in getting a master's degree? And I was like, absolutely. And he told me that I could pursue a master's degree in either linguistics, ESL, Spanish, or English, or French. And of course, I was like, well, my undergraduate degree, my Profesorado degree, is in ESL. I'm already a native speaker of Spanish, so, and I was like, linguistics. But remember, that's the one that I didn't pass at Profesorado, like right away. Eventually I got to pass, right? But I was like, now that I got the hang of it, let's do linguistics, which is insane. And I pursued that master's degree, and I loved it. And I graduated I have a master's degree in linguistics with a concentration in ESL. And I moved to Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And I got a job. I had to look for a job in 3 months, or else I had to go back to my home country. So I was on a mission. And I got accepted for Pittsburgh Public Schools, and I taught Spanish at a high school, at an inner city school. And I loved the experience. It was amazing. And before that year ended, I realized that I was on an emergency certificate. So basically, if you want to teach at a high school level, you need to get a master's degree in education and get certified in the area of interest. So I went back to school. I went back to West Virginia University. This time, I supported my studies through research. So I worked for the Office for Diversity and Global Initiatives as a research assistant. And I pursued a master's in education, and I finally got certified in English and Spanish. Not ESL, English. So I can, technically I could teach, well, officially, right? I can teach English at high school. Very intimidating. The student teaching was intense and very humbling, but I loved it. And then I finally had to go back to Argentina. Because of the Fulbright scholarship, I was subject to the 2-year home residency requirement. I was sponsored by the U.S. Department of State and the Ministry of Education of Argentina. So I had to return for 2 years to my home country and return everything that I learned. So I moved back to Argentina in 2016, and I worked at Profesorado de Inglés in Celi. And I moved in with my boyfriend back then, Kenneth, and he was looking for a job in oil and gas because he's an oil and gas engineer. And I was like, perfect, Comodoro is the ideal town in Argentina to get a job, right? And unfortunately, it was during recession, and a lot of oil and gas industries were shutting down across the country, across the world, actually. So after 9 or 10 months, he decided to go back to the U.S. and look for a job. And that's when we filed for the fiancé visa. So by January of 2018, I went back to the U.S. On a fiancé visa, and I'm finally married. I'm right now Mrs. Yonkers. Miss Yonkers, sorry. So I'm not Vilma Santana Yogi, I'm Vilma Yonkers now in the US. And I started looking for jobs, and I currently work as a Spanish teacher at an underserved school. All of my students that are African American, and I work for Pittsburgh Public Schools, and it has been a very humbling experience, very rewarding for sure. And I realized that I got to strengthen my teaching skills, and my desire to fight for social justice has become even stronger. So my advice to you is don't miss any opportunity that life gives you. Grab it and pursue your dreams. And if you know English, you never know where life is going to take you. Adios. See you.